Hey, everybody, it's Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News. And I'm very pleased to have with me today Anil Kollipara of Spirent. Anil, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me here, Doug.
Well, we're in the run-up to the Mobile World Congress, and a big theme at that conference and a big theme for Spirent is operational resilience, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Neil, before we jump into that, just tell us a little bit about what you do at Spirent and how that's connected to operational resilience.
Yeah, that's great. I had the test and automation portfolio at Spirent Communications, responsible for product lines such as mobile networks, cloud, security, automation. And that's where operational resilience comes from, because that's part of the solutions and offerings and value that we provide our customers, whether they are telcos or enterprises or financial services, to make sure they build operational resilience in their networks.
So you have a front row seat to this topic, don't you?
Absolutely. It's wonderful. Yeah.
So with that in mind, tell me a little bit more. Could you elaborate on the significance of operational resilience to the telecom industry?
Yeah, this is an important topic. So the way I see this is, think about your end customers, whether it's a telco or a financial services firm, your end customers. Today, customers expect always-on connectivity, safe and reliable connections, right? Then on top of that, so this is table stakes. And then on top of that, all these organizations are trying to offer new innovative services, whether it is faster internet, faster speeds, or low latency services, in an effort to further monetize as well as increase competitive advantage. So think of this as a business. They have to run with some table stake services, but also continue to grow with this new services. So that, operational resilience is a must for this aspect. Now, if you look at the other side of things, from a regulatory point of view, there are a lot of regulations that are being put in place because of the significance of connectivity in today's world. Think about healthcare or first responders, or just in general consumers. There's a lot of emphasis on making sure that we have operational resilience, and there are regulations coming in picture. And not being compliant to regulations is very, very expensive. And lastly, there are a lot of forces that are disrupting in today's networks. Number one being, technologies are becoming complex. So you have all these new, technologies like 4G, 5G, security, cloud, now AI. All of these things are becoming very complex. These are getting complex because we have a complex supply chain that is providing all these different technologies. There are many more vendors and moving parts. So all these things kind of disrupt the steady state of the business, and pushing the boundaries of the network. So from every aspect, whether it is taking care of your customers, being competitive in the market, being compliant to regulations, or making sure that you are having a grasp on the complexity that is coming in your way, operational resilience is a must into this digital networks.
And at the same time, are there limitations to traditional testing methods with that complexity?
Yeah. There's a more than anything, I would say, the first and foremost, or if you want to put it this way, it's the mindset and the philosophy. The traditional mindset is that your supply chain, your vendors would do the testing for you. You rely on them to complete the testing. But as you know, that is not true anymore. Let's take CrowdStrike as an example. We had a supply chain problem. We had an issue with one of the updates coming from a supply chain, from your supply chain, that basically caused disruptions. And Delta as an enterprise lost $500 million on that issue. It's not only expensive, but it has disrupted your business. It's impacted your end customers. I was actually one of the impacted customers. I was at one of the airports and everything was down, and I had to, reschedule my travel. So the mindset that your supply chain would take care of the operational resilience needs to change. You as an enterprise or organization that owns the customer has the ownership of delivering a secure, always on, reliable connection or service to your customer, and you have to take the ownership of the testing. So I would say that is the biggest piece, the mindset. And then you move down to the methodologies, right? In the traditional methods of testing, we're very light. I mean, you would expect that your supplier is doing some of the testing. You would do some functional testing, and okay, maybe it's working. Maybe you do it in very siloed labs that may have worked up till some legacy technologies, but because of all the complexities I talked about earlier, the methodology of testing needs to change. It needs to include non-functional testing beyond just functional testing. Non-functional testing could be, security testing against security attacks, testing against outages, replicating real-world scenarios in the lab, in the pre-production environment, and making sure that your network is able to handle these kinds of situations is a change in the methodology and an approach when it comes to testing. In the end, it boils down to taking a more continuous testing approach, or we call it as lab-to-lab testing, is crucial for today's organizations to change and adapt to these to the changing world.
So how do companies need to adapt their strategies to improve their organization's operational resilience?
Yeah, think of these, again, mindset is the most important part of this. Think of this as a chain link system. So you have one end, you have your business, that you're trying to run in a steady state, and you're continuously trying to offer new things, new services. Then on the other opposite or the far end of it, you have this regulatory aspect, compliance. You need to be compliant to all these different regulations, whether it's E911 or whether it is DORA or any of these regulations that basically put a lot of emphasis or onus on the networks. Now, the weakest link in this is the operational resilience. So you can continue to beef up your business or your go-to-market and offer new services. The regulators are coming in with higher and higher regulations, but if you don't have the operational resilience beefed up, then you have a big link in your system, and your business is in jeopardy. So that's the mindset, that needs to change again. So if you refer back to what I was talking about, all these different complex technologies that are coming in, that are many moving parts. We have so many updates that are happening across all these different components in your network. You have an increased attack surface. We for a fact that cybersecurity threats have increased significantly in the last few years, especially with networks like 5G and so on. The operators need to own the end-to-end testing, and an important aspect, which is very akin to zero trust in the security world. What I call this as zero trust in change management. That means when anything changes in any part of your supply chain or any part of your network, you basically assume it's going to break your network, and make sure that you are testing that change thoroughly in a continuous CI/CD/CT approach manner. So that is an important aspect of adapting to this new world, is implementing a continuous change management approach through a CI/CD/CT pipeline, and that continuous testing is not only it's toward the life cycle of the service. That is, you're doing something in the lab, you brought something, you're trying to launch something, you're testing something in the lab. You try to break it with every possible. You test for functionality, you test for security, you test for resilience. You try to break it, right, and then you fix the issues. Then you have this in between. It's a pre-production, but basically change management. Small updates and security updates or some patches that are coming in, and how are you continuously testing that those changes, making sure that none of this impacts the network. And then the third piece that is typically missing is that once you launch that service and once your services are live, you're still monitoring them 24/7 through actively emulating the services that the customer basically is using. What that gives you is you can understand how your service in the end is performing. Is it performing as per the expectations? Is it providing the right SLAs that you have promised your customers? And if there are issues, you basically take a proactive approach to addressing those issues and minimize any impact on your end customers. And the other aspect is you feed those kinds of learnings back into the lab so that now you incorporate and you start growing your test library and test cases to make sure that you're now including observations from the lab. So it's a continuous lab to live approach that is critical to addressing this issue.
And this point seems to be really big. It seems that you're suggesting telcos, you shouldn't wait around. You should be out there trying to break it, to fix it in advance.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, this is very important, especially, let's take cloud native as a technology, right? And, the way cloud native works is that we are using software to scale, right? It's basically cloud native is helping with the scaling problem that couldn't have been done in hardware, but it could be done through software. And by design, there are multiple elements. These are microservices you can think of. There are multiple moving parts and elements. The architecture is much more, I call as small, and many moving parts in it. So all these small things, it could be pods or containers, they can go up and down, right? What happens when those things are going up and down? Is there any impact of that on the services that are running on top of it? And, especially in the telco world, we've been used to building beautiful 3GPP applications, but when we put those applications on a cloud native environment, what we have seen is that they break sometimes, and many times actually, because they have not been built with true cloud native architecture. So emulating these real world scenarios that could happen in a cloud network and making sure you are testing and re-architecting and fixing the applications that run on top of it is critical. And you catch them in the lab in the pre-production before they become customer impacting.
So Neil, earlier we talked about this evolving landscape, and of course it includes 5G, it includes edge computing, it includes the torrent of data that's coming up with the AI enabled data and so on. So has the evolving threat landscape impacted the way telcos approach operational resilience, given all that?
Yeah, all of these fundamentally. What is happening with this expanded network, whether it is like the network is gone away from the traditional data centers now to edge and towards far edge as well with technologies like Open RAN and so on. So it's just, there are some benefits to it, primarily the benefit being how do I provide quick, low latency services to the end customer. So those are all good aspects of why networks are moving in those directions. But the challenge it introduces is it also increases the attack surface, the points from which attacks could be introduced into the networks. So what operators need to do is make sure that all of these technologies, whether it's 5G edge computing or whether it is, Open RAN, all of these interfaces are tested for operational resilience. That includes security, right? So emulating all potential security attacks that you can expect, and you've been seeing and observing in the industry in a lab, in a secure lab, that and make sure that your security infrastructure, your security framework, your security posture is well built to handle these kinds of attacks. Not only emulating attacks, but also exploiting any kind of vulnerabilities that you have in these architectures, and emulating different applications that basically leverage these kinds of architectures, and really trying to break and reproduce things that we have either seen or expect to see in the network, and making sure that you are building solid operational resilience across your network. This is very, very important, and continues to be increasingly important with AI and the further evolution we see in the networks.
So Neil, are you arguing that continuous testing can actually improve uptime?
Oh, absolutely. It is. Think about it again. I'll go back to the CrowdStrike example because that's very salient. With the impact that it created. Think about the downtime it had, right? Multiple days of downtime and impact on the customers. We are at a stage when we have disruptions even for minutes if we are just frustrated. Think about you're trying to make a purchase at a store and your credit card is not working because the point subsystem sales system is not getting the connectivity. Think about emergency services trying to address some kind of an important issue, and the connectivity is not working. So we are at a stage where even minutes of not having reliable connectivity can disrupt us. So I think having operational resilience is extremely important, and continuous testing is an important aspect or approach that can keep that operational resilience. Is because, again, what it says is that anything that has changed in my supply chain goes through a thorough validation across functional and non-functional tests, and only when I'm convinced it has minimal or no impact on my subscribers, on my network, in the live networks, is when I would make that update to the network. So this basically takes out the risk of the networks getting impacted and the potential downtime that it would have. So from that perspective, continuous testing is a must to continue to keep or increase the uptime of the networks.
Neil, I'm so glad that you talked about what's actually happening at the ground floor, at the end of the pipe, right? That somebody's not able to process a credit card transaction, and that can be misinterpreted by the actual customer's customer in a very bad way. So the consequences of that downtime is not just we've lost our connectivity. You might lose a customer.
You might lose it. Exactly. Yeah. You might lose a customer. And again, that frustration, the customers are not patient, and rightly so. And
Right.
they will find a different service or network or operator where they would get that kind of a service. So it becomes, it's not about not only keeping your customers, but also an important aspect of differentiation for the networks and the service providers to make sure they continue to advertise reliable connectivity and gain customers.
As we wrap up our discussion today, let's look at it from the other way. However, Neil, is there ROI? I mean, this is all great, but it must be somewhat expensive to do all this testing. You'll tell me in a minute. Is there real ROI? Can it be measured?
Oh, it is significant ROI. Like I talked about, think about the ability. First of all, maintaining your business, right? That's your first and foremost thing that keeps the leaders in the networks up and at night is, how do I maintain my business? Okay, so that means making sure that I don't increase churn and I keep my subscribers. The second aspect of that is, how do we continue to grow my customer base and my ARPU and by offering innovative services. That by itself would be an important measure that is going to pay for this kind of testing approach multiple folds. But think about the other aspects of other benefits of the this approach. Number one being, now you're doing all of this continuous testing. You don't have to throw manual approaches, manual people that are not scalable, but also would not be able to keep up with the requirements from a testing perspective, from a test coverage perspective. So you're saving significant operational costs by moving to a continuous test approach. And the third part of it, we talked about regulations. And let's say lack of operational resilience leads you to an outage or into a data breach or anything that is customer impacting. The amount of money that you're paying towards these fines, right? So if you combine all of these, the ROI is significant, and it and in some way, this is not even a comparison, right? The amount of savings that you would have by implementing a continuous test approach is very huge.
So as we wrap up our discussion today, let's just turn quickly to trends for 2025, and I bet that's going to be part of the discussion at Mobile World Congress. What are you seeing? What are you looking at in terms of new technologies, regulations, and in terms of operational resilience?
Yeah, the new technology, of course, AI is at the forefront. I mean, nobody, I don't think we have a conversation nowadays without talking about AI. That is going to be front and center at Mobile World Congress. And in general, this is tied together, right? AI basically is saying that the networks are getting so complex, and organizations today, if they think about scaling their operations, scaling their business, they cannot scale them by adding people or throwing people at it. They can only scale their business by using technology, and AI is there to provide that kind of a technology that allows these customers to do much more with much less. And you would see a lot of discussions around agents, AI agents. Basically, AI agents are nothing but think of the AI performing a workflow. So in terms of networks, especially the customers that we talk to, these are network operators that are trying to make sure that they are keeping up the network, and if there are issues, trying to get to the root cause very quickly and fix it, so that they are trying to minimize any downtime. Think about all the manual, labor-intensive work that you would have to do across a very cross-domain, multi-vendor network. It could take hours or days to get to the bottom of it. Now, thanks to some of the agentic approaches, you are able to do that in much shorter time. All that manual processing, crunching the logs and KPIs and files and everything can be automated through AI and get to the root cause and remediation much more quickly. So I think there's a significant advantages that we see, operational efficiencies that could be gained, and we are seeing the range of 30-40% operational efficiency gained by leveraging some of these new technologies, and that's going to be the front and center at Mobile World Congress this year.
Anil, I want to really thank you for joining me today. This has been really interesting. Thank you for giving us a deeper dive into operational resilience testing and the modern telco network, the challenges that everyone's facing. Mobile World Congress is literally right around the corner. Give us a glimpse of, I understand you're going to be meeting people. You actually have a special place to meet up with folks and so on. Anything new and noteworthy there?
Absolutely. Yeah. And first of all, thank you for having me here. Enjoyed the discussion. These are great topics. So in terms of new things that we're going to talk about at Mobile World Congress, definitely operational resilience is one of the key topics we're going to talk about. In addition to that, I touched upon AI. There's some exciting things that are coming, towards the industry, especially from a test and measurement perspective. And we're going to talk about AI. And another aspect that is very important, which again goes back to some of the operational resiliency, is the CNF resiliency. So this is a new test category that we see becoming mainstream, in addition to the typical compliance testing, capacity and performance testing. CNF resiliency is going to become a mainstream testing, and we already see customers. We've been working with customers for over 3 years, and I highlighted some of the problems about cloud native networks in terms of things that go up and down. What we are doing with this testing is helping our customers answer the question: what happens to the applications, the 3GPP applications, and the services that are running on top when things fail in the cloud infrastructure, so that you understand the impact and you fix the issues and the architecture. So this basic question, or this important question, is something that we are answering with this new test category called as CNF resiliency, and I look forward to discussing these topics with our customers.
Anil, really interesting. I really want to thank you again for joining me. Where can we learn more about all of these topics?
Obviously, you can go to Spirent.com and you have all of these topics in depth. You can also reach out to your sales representatives and to get an in-depth look into all of these solutions.
Well, again, thank you very much indeed. I know we're going to be talking about this stuff coming up, but for now, enjoy the show.
Thank you.